buyers have been told, right or wrong, because micro markets are all different, that we're not in a very good market for the last 24 months. For them to enter and have the confidence and do it, they want to feel like they're winning this negotiation or they're getting a deal. And I looked back at the history of when significant rate changes have happened at any period of time, how long did it take for the market to move again? And all the big growth we've ever seen is when Bank of Canada is doing nothing.
So my first guest is Mr. Tom Storey. He's one of Canada's top realtors under 35, consistently ranking in the top 1% of the marketplace. Based in Toronto, he leads one of the city's most successful real estate teams and is a trusted expert featured on CTV, Global News, and CP24. Known for his data-driven approach and focus on building lasting client relationships, Tom is redefining what it means to succeed in real estate. I met Tom through other people that I trust. I met him at Buzz multiple times. We kept intersecting through the creator community, through the real estate community. And there's 4 different types of people that you run into in those communities, probably in the YouTube community too. Predators, parasites, competitors, and collaborators. There's predators that just want to take advantage of you, your database. There's parasites that just want to basically siphon from you and could care less about you. Competitors, people that maybe are in the same business but work at different brokerages and maybe have intersecting clients. And then there's collaborators, people that realize that we can learn from each other and probably do more business together than we would apart by intersecting relationships rather than worrying about you taking what I have or I take what you have. I learned something from the Bogart team in New York with the Sirhan team, and he said, would you prefer to have a watermelon or a watermelon field? So this is a good example of somebody that believes in the watermelon field principle. But there was a quote that he said that stuck with me, and it was, the one thing we should always keep our eye on is inventory levels. It's absolutely the best way to track the market. We had an in-depth discussion about the real estate market that you guys, I think, definitely want to hear prior to us even launching the podcast. So what does that quote mean to you? Why is tracking inventory levels such an important thing for you?
So people always talk about good market, bad market, buyer market, seller market, things like that. And it all comes back to months of inventory. And I think most realtors in the room would know what I'm talking about at the end of every month. You take how many active listings were there and divide them by how many sales actually happen, right? Mm-hmm. And anything under 3 is a seller's market where, there's more buyers than there is listings. And typically that's when price points move up. 4 to 6 is balance out marketplace, and then 6+ is into a buyer's market. Now, the big thing with months of inventory is it's not a clear, this is it, put the hammer down, this is what the market is now. Mm-hmm. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful tool, and we talk to every single seller and every single buyer about this before we get started. It's how long does it remain this way? So I'll give you an example. A lot of my business I do is downtown Toronto. We sell a lot of condos. We have a good market share there. In the downtown core in September, there was 10 months of inventory.
Holy.
So when you're talking to buyers, sellers, anybody, what that means is that 1 out of every 10 condos was going to find a buyer in the next 30 days. That's like not great, right? It's like right. But so I want sellers to know that going into this process, that how do we become that 10%, right? Sure. It also means that if no new listings came to the market right now, it would take 10 months for everything to be absorbed and there to be nothing else to purchase. And buyers need to know that on the other side as well, is like when we were meeting with buyers in 2021, it's like, hey, there's 0.8 months of inventory. You have to, there's no waiting till after work, like we're showing you at lunch today, right? But the thing is that it changes so quickly, and inventory can change because more sales are actually happening and the absorption rate is higher. And that downtown core, they actually went from 10 months of inventory to 6 months of inventory in October. It's like, okay, well, did it get better? Does this mean prices are going up? And no, what happened is just everyone took listings off the market or they expired. Yeah. So the actual sales didn't go up, but overall it looks pretty good, right? So with everything, in my opinion at least, this months of inventory term that you hear thrown around everywhere, the absorption rate, only matters if it stays that way for a 4 to 6 month period of time, because it can swing every month so much. It's not just because more sales happen.
That's an interesting data point. Actually, I shared yesterday, there was a Facebook group talking about how Exeter is as expensive as downtown Toronto to live in. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. And I went and read the article. CTV posted it last night. And then what I read was, they took one small data point and made a comparison where maybe the cost of transportation and whatnot and actually living makes sense, but housing and rents aren't the same. Like, the problem with a lot of the news and these data points that people are reading in the headlines is a lot of them just use whatever is going to create the most sensational headline to get you to click. And most people aren't going to read the actual article to interpret the data. And I think what you just pointed out is very accurate. Months of inventory, we look at it on a regular basis. But I tell my clients, like, it's a lagging indicator. Yep. It's something that by the time we go out and do a deal, buy that property, fulfill conditions, and then it closes, and then we register that data at L-Star and it hits the public, that deal happened 30, 45 days ago. I can tell you what we're doing this week, and I can tell you how active the team is this week. You won't see any of that, right? And I think 3 or 4 months is a great data set to look at because you'll see trends in those 3 or 4 months, right?
And like, I have the ability in Toronto that thousands of properties sell every month.
Yeah.
If you're in a market like out here, if there's like 8 sales one month and you're doing, it's like, it's not helpful, right? Like, it's sure. So it really depends on the marketplace that you're looking in. You made a good point. Yeah. In any business, if you're doing advertising, marketing, getting educational information out there on what has happened, whatever the stats are in your world, it is lagging, right? Yeah. So what I've tried to mix in with the content that we make and the information we're giving clients is like, I can tell you right now, because we track it very clearly, we have 21 active pre-approved buyers that our team is working with right now. I have never had that many in November in the last 5 years, ever. So yeah, the overall numbers aren't great, and December numbers will fall off at the end of the year like they do every single year. But I'm telling you, in 2 to 3 months, when you add in the new mortgage rules, which I was shocked yesterday, I posted what the new minimum down payments was. I've never had a post.
I said that to somebody actually.
Shared so many times.
Yeah.
And even realtors were like, "Where did you hear about this?" I'm like, "The government, like 2 months ago, told us this was coming."
And then they dropped it.
That plus the 30-year AMs for first-time home buyers. So I don't know, like, maybe this is just me realtoring this, but I'm a lot more optimistic about 2025. Transaction volume will pick up. Like, I have no doubt.
Yeah, and CMHC approved up to 1.5, right? Like, for our market, that really matters because of where our average price points are, especially for new homes. There's a new development project we have up in Bayfield, and sold the 9 lots to a builder, and initially was like, I'd love to sell them at 1.25, but they're going to be $950,000 houses because it just made more sense to him to target that price point. Opening it up to 1.5, people will then be able to buy and start adding all kinds of improvements and still get CMHC insured. So all important information. I do think what you mentioned as well, like, as you're looking at these data points and people are talking to us, I tell people in our community, call me more for sentiment than you are necessarily a crystal ball, because what you're talking about is the sentiment of how people are moving right now is very different than last year. And I want to get into the discussion we had earlier about 2022 to 2023 to where we're at today. I don't care if the market's up or down from the standpoint that people are going to buy and sell houses. It's not going to stop. And these people that troll you online, I'm sure in your comments and on TikTok and everywhere else, that think that we're just trying to pump up the market to line our pocketbooks, don't really understand how good agents operate, because we will succeed in up and down markets. It's just a different type of buyer and seller. What I can tell you is last year, people's pocketbooks and bank accounts were strapped. They were canceling everything they could. They were canceling daycares. They weren't taking trips because the market was what it was across all industries: venture capital, tech, real estate, automotive, hospitality. I have clients in all of those things. We were all down 30%, and we were trying to find a way to get it through, right? Got through the storm, and now I can tell you, with where I've seen rates going, the general sentiment amongst people is they're looking for land. They're talking about potentially building, talking about selling their house, talking about opening up new offices and reinvesting in their businesses. I just got another commercial lead that we need to talk about that is super interesting. Came to me, I'm like, I wouldn't see this business opening last year because of the sentiment of the marketplace. And I think that has a lot to do with the confidence going into 2025 is the sentiment more so than just, the data side of things.
So when rates went up really, really fast, all the economists will say it takes 12 to 18 months for every rate increase or decrease to fully run its way through, right? Mm-hmm. Which is true, but real estate is probably one of the leading indicators because it's most impacted. So when the rates went crazy in 2022, actually most of the drop we saw, at least in our market, and I'm sure it's very similar across the board, happened in the first 6 months. Most of the decline that you saw in the market happened from February 22 to December 2022. Mm-hmm. And then it went down a little bit the next year. It's like, okay, when rates went up prices went down. That's very clear. Now rates are going down, but prices haven't gone up. In fact, you could argue they've continued to go down. It's like, okay, well, when they go up, why did that happen? And when they're going down, why hasn't it gone up yet? And so I started trying to figure this out, and I looked back at the history of when significant rate changes have happened at any period of time. How long did it take for the market to move again? And all the big growth we've ever seen is when Bank of Canada is doing nothing. So we think rates go down means more purchasing power, sales are going to go up again. No, all buyers are hearing is like there might be another cut, even though if they're even though if they're taking the fixed rates, fixed rates probably bottomed out. Honestly, especially with what happened in the States in the election, I think we're probably going to stick around that 4.5% here for a while. I think when Bank of Canada is done, and they say they're done, not just what the announcement is, but what TIF says in the conference, and they go, okay, and then they hold for 2, the market's going to do its thing again. Like sales volume will return because all buyers just want to know, like, is it safe? Yeah. Is it safe to do it now? So that's why I'm optimistic about next year, because even if we get a 25-point cut in December and another 25 in January, whatever they end up doing, the market's not truly going to come back until every buyer's been told, we're done. The dust is settled now, and now you can go do what you want, and it's not going to keep going down on you.
Yeah, and call it the Bobby and Susie effect. We saw this a lot during the pandemic when people started realizing that, Jen and Jimmy went to Bobby and Susie's house for dinner, and they're not buying a house, right? But then they go to their house, like, oh yeah, we just bought a condo. And then all of a sudden they're like, maybe we should go looking, honey. And then they start going out next weekend. Genuinely, that's how human beings tend to operate. I think they're looking for stability and some type of forecast. I also think TIF is a borderline influencer these days. Yeah. Every time they do a rate announcement, it's the NHL draft, right? People get all excited and every agent and mortgage person posts their opinion on it. But I think that's where there's different tiers of purchasers, right? There's people that are opportunists that will look for a property that's been on the market for 6 months. That's a great deal that you can negotiate. And they're going out and just taking shots. And sure, you maybe have to work 10 times as hard, but it's worth doing because you don't know the deals that you can write. And then there's the other people that are just waiting. They're like, well, I'm just going to wait until rates go down another quarter point or another half a point because I want to get the best rate that I can. And it's the difference between, I think, investors and consumers. Consumers care about what something costs them. Investors care about how much will something make them, right? And Shannon and I we had a property that we were selling. The last mastermind was held at that property at Jennison. And we could have kept it for another year or 2 years and hit a target sales price. Instead, we chose to go to where the market actually was, take that capital out, and now we're looking at deploying it in something else for the business. And I think is that where you're seeing people be a little bit more strategic now than they were before?
Well, even for myself, I just sold the last condo that I had owned. I heavily invested in condos for the last 10 years. I'm fully out. And the reason why is that I want to own as much freehold as I possibly can. Every market's different. Like, I'm speaking more as someone from Toronto here. But if you look at the next 10 years, what's going to be built, some condos, but actually not many after 2028 because no one's buying pre-construction right now. It's all purpose.
There's going to be a big lag for that, right?
Like next year we have 40,000 condos coming to Toronto. The condo market's not bouncing back, going up 10% next year. Like, it's not. It will be fine. I don't think it's going to drop a ton, but it's not going to be the year.
It'll restabilize. I also think like asset classes, I'm jumping into this because I see it in commercial. Like, commercial offices was the belle of the ball, and then retail was, then industrial was. And then when people stopped shipping as much, one of my best friends builds Amazons across the country. They canceled 7. And then I'm like, man, all these agents are chasing the commissions running to industrial, and then now they're selling farms. They're commercial agents. And you see people going from asset class to asset class. Why do you think freehold? Why do you think freehold's a great strategy for GTA?
So pre-pandemic, the gap between the average condo price and the average detached property in Toronto was $700,000. Still a lot of money. It's $1 million today.
Interesting.
So it went up almost 30%. And in the last 5 years, obviously freehold everywhere after pandemic went a little bit crazy. Even after it's fallen down, it's still way higher than where it started in 2019. I'm meeting with condo sellers today that if they didn't buy pre-2019, they're even. And if they bought in 21, they lost. 22, they lost big, right? Which is like every single market. There was no growth at all. Like, there was, but it was a little roller coaster, and now it's kind of leveled out again. So that gap is there, and it's weird. Like, at one point last month, we had 7,000 condos for sale in Toronto. 70% of the inventory for sale on the market was condos, and only 30% was houses. And like, this is just my own, what we see on our team. We had a house for sale at $899 that got 18 offers on it.
Yeah.
I have 5 condos for sale at $600,000 that we can't get a showing on.
Interesting.
So it's weird. Like, we talk about like affordable housing and what we're building. What we're building is not what people want.
Yeah.
It's what investors want when the numbers make sense.
Sure.
But we're not building freehold housing in Toronto.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not happening. So for me moving forward, I want to own as much freehold as I possibly can. And I will say, like, I couldn't have gotten into freehold if I didn't start investing in condos at the beginning.
Sure.
And you could look back at this moment and actually maybe say, hey, it is a good time to get into condos because they're pretty low. You're buying it at a 2019 price at 2024 rents. Mm-hmm. The problem is it's a 2024 interest rate. Right?
Yeah. And I think that's, again, stepping back, because we do have lenders in the room and people that are in the mortgage business, like being strategic about, well, how much is the rate costing you versus the asset, and having an actual plan. Doesn't matter what something costs you. It matters how much will it make you in the long run. And I think people get too fixated on what's my interest rate, what's my payment versus what's the asset I'm buying. Where's the market for that asset today? Like, if I was somebody looking to buy condos for the next 20 years or next 15 years, you wait a year or two, like you said, if we have that many condos coming to the market in the GTA and prices stabilize, well, eventually the demand will come up and the puck will go back to that area. It's about being strategic. I think of even Kyle and Chelsea we'll talk about this later, but as they were building their portfolio in Grand Bend, they went in and bought assets in an emerging market that not many people were investing in at the time, right? The first one we did on Pine Street, everybody couldn't see what they saw, but they're like, this is right across the street from one of the best beaches in southwestern Ontario. Chelsea's got a great aptitude for design. They had an idea of what they would rent for. They looked at, okay, sure, this will be my capital injection. This is how much income I'm going to make. And they invested at a time when people maybe thought they were crazy, parlayed that into larger acquisitions. Same thing with your story. And it's interesting. Question I have for you, though, is a lot of sellers right now are like, well, I'm just going to wait for prices to come back. Like the condos you own, are you looking at it's too far of a runway for you to bother waiting? You'd rather have that capital back in your pocket?
It depends on if they live there, if they rent it out. Because depending on if they bought it, if they rent it out, listen, a lot of them are losing still $1,000 a month.
Sure.
Like they're in the negative. So we just run the numbers. Like if you held it this much longer even if it gets back to this price, what did you pay in lost costs, in interest on your mortgage and maintenance fees on taxes over that period of time? Does it make sense to wait?
Sure.
And most are saying, if I have to wait till 2027 to get this number again, I just want to move on to something else.
One thing you hear a lot is prices double every 10 years. The one asterisk to that, though, was when we were at Buzz, Benjamin Tall talked about how the increase in the market was from 2020 to 2022 what it should have been from 2020 to 2025. Right, the appreciation you saw per year jumped from like your 3 to 5% to 17% to 22% a year in some markets. I think that threw a wrench into things and people's looking at the data think, I want my 2022 price. I think that's out the window, right? Like
I think it's most people, like consumers, know what's going on now. They understand it's not realistic anymore. And actually, if you look at GTA, I think it's like 43 years of data now they've tracked. It's like 6.7% is the yearly increase over those 43 years.
Sure.
And if you just plotted where we actually are today in average sale price, we're almost bang on where we should be. Yeah. It just got so silly those few years that we went up and now we've kind of come down. And, 2021, we had 125,000 sales on the Toronto Real Estate Board. Now, that's like the 6 different areas. It's not just City of Toronto.
Sure.
This year, if we're lucky, we'll be 70,000. Last year, we were 67.
So what would be like normalized?
85 to 90.
There you go.
We're not even close to what a market is when there's like stability.
Mm-hmm. What do you think gets us to stability?
Well, right now, if I look at the people that are making moves on the buying or selling side, it's had a kid moving to Toronto, selling an investment property because the numbers don't add up. Like it's a lot of transitions. I need to do this, or I have a strong want. The kind of just this would be nice buyer that definitely existed in 21, early 22, they're not there. And even for myself, like the condo investor is not back yet, I can tell you. The buying the duplex, triplex investor, they're back.
Yeah.
They're looking at the numbers now. The condo investor still hasn't shown up.
We're seeing the exact same thing. We're seeing the people that are creating opportunities, right? If you're looking for, I want turnkey cash flowing properties, we do consultations. I'm like, they don't exist. Like, I'm sorry to tell you, people are still coming to our market. They're looking for housing and where the average price point is. You have to understand what you're selling. How much will that property sell per unit? What can you do renovation wise to get it up to say where market rents are, create a stabilized asset? And then what does it look like after you stabilize it? It's going to cost you money. It's going to take a certain amount of risk. I think back again, there's a difference between an actual investor and somebody that just wants to play investor on YouTube. Right. And I think a lot of those YouTube investors are getting washed out that were doing deals that didn't actually make sense because they didn't take the time to have a strategy up front. And I think that that's what you're seeing across all markets, right? And I think take it back to like your personal business perspective, like the agents that are in the room and the other people that are doing business planning right now. We're projecting like, what are we doing in 2025? Who are we working with? How are we deploying our time, skill, and money? And we're not necessarily working with people that either haven't earned the relationship or don't actually need to buy or sell. If they just want to sell, there's certain relationships where we will deploy different types of assets and resources to help them along that journey because we've built a lifelong relationship. The ones that are just calling us off the street that just want a discounted commission, want to put a stupid price on it and just, have us test the market, it just doesn't make sense for us to work with them at all anymore, right? And I think that you're also seeing that reaction from the marketplace of sellers where when we're talking to them, they get it. Like they're a lot more realistic on price point where I ripped a Band-Aid off for a property I took over from an agent in Toronto that listed in a market where he's not a board member and overpriced it by 70 grand. Yeah. And he's like, Justin, I just should have given this to you. I'm like, that's okay. Like we'll work on it together now. I need to tell her you're 70 grand overpriced. I could reduce it 25 or 50. It's not going to help you. Nobody's going to buy it because the last comp sold for this price point and you're priced here. And in January, we're going to talk again. And then we're going to reduce it another 25 or 50 and it won't have the impact. And then your offers are going to be like 650 instead of 700, right? The conversations you're having, his listing presentation is boss, by the way. I've seen it.
Thank you.
When you're actually doing the listing presentation, are you finding people more receptive to data and pricing than they were previously?
Yeah, every seller I'm meeting with now, I'm starting the conversation saying there's 3 ways I could price your property. Or we could figure out value. What we're actually doing now is we're going onto a back-end system on our real estate board, and we're tracking back to the asset type they bought, the area they bought, the month they bought it. And I'm bringing a printed out chart of from that moment in time till today. And you can pick like very specifically, like how many bedrooms was it? What area was it freehold? Was it condo? And now it is average price, so it's not perfect. And again, if there's 8 sales that month,
it's way harder where we live. We do it all the time, and it's like, what was the average price?
Maybe
in Grand Bend
benchmark you use, or make up
we
your own
have
formula.
a recipe, but yeah.
But so that's the first thing I show them, and everything always with anyone you're trying to explain something to, you have to show them. Mm-hmm. If you just tell them, they're gonna be like, great. Well, like what are you talking about? Sure. So like we actually physically bring this, we print it out, and I show them, and I'll grab my pen, and this is not always fun to do these days, but I'll go on the day they bought it, and I'll just put a line across and show them like, here's where we are today versus, when you purchased this property. The second way that we typically value properties is, what was the comparables? What sold recently? But if this sold in your building in March, here's what the market's done since then. So what we're mostly tracking right now in the type of market where things are still taking a long time to move, and we talk about months of inventory and things like that, is what's your competition? Mm-hmm. So if we know months of inventory wise, like I'll just give you an example for a condo. I've got 2 of these appointments next Monday. I know for a fact CO1 downtown Toronto is at 6.2 months of inventory. 1 out of 6, I believe, is like 14% on a percentage wise, right? So 14% of properties are going to sell. So if there was 100 for sale, are we in the top 15?
Sure.
If not, we're just not going to sell. Like if you're not in the lead, I don't know what this stat is exactly. I'm not a racehorse guy, but in the last whatever meters, if you're not in the top 3, your chances of winning are probably not great, tiny, right? Yeah. So it's just explaining all this, and you can tell pretty quickly into the conversation with that seller. First of all, is this even going to work for them?
Sure.
Or if not, we have a lot of people that are like, we just can't take that loss. Even if we could take it, like up here, I can't take it. And I'm like, no worries, I'll let you know when the moment comes. But if it's a condo, I think I'm going to be calling you in mid-2026.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of parallels when we do training and we talk with the team. Like I always say, you want to be in the top 3. Get me in the top 3. I will follow up more with that other agent. We'll scrap it out. We'll figure out what it takes to get a deal done and put you in that first spot. That's our job, right? Essentially is to find the deal and the opportunity. But I think that's a very interesting approach. I do think what you said, though, with some clients, having that conversation, this is where the relationship comes in. If they realize that you're not there as a salesperson, you don't have commission breath, and you're just trying to get a deal done, sometimes the thing they need to hear is taking a little bit of a loss or getting rid of this now is actually a win before the bank takes this property from you, right? Like, I think that's part of a conversation where I've had one recently where I was like, here's the trajectory, here's your deadline date. If this doesn't happen, breaking even, it may not be an option for you, right? Like, making sure you don't get sued might be a conversation we need to have.
And in a downward trending market, if one of your competition sells and they undercut you on price, then you have to get to where they were. But it's not just that you get to where they were and it means you sell next. You lost that buyer.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't know when that next buyer shows up. So it's like getting ahead of this. And I'm stealing this from my co-host on the podcast, Steve, but his best analogy was like, if you're trying to catch a pop fly in baseball, you don't swat at it from the top. You got to get under it and catch that next buyer instead of hoping you're just going to get one like this, hoping that someone shows up. It's like, the market is very clear. And another stat I actually love, even with low absorption, is the days on market, because it only tracks properties that actually sold. Mm-hmm. So I know downtown right now, if your condo hasn't sold in 35 days, the market has told you you're not in the 15%. Yeah. So we can try to get, what are we going to do next month to make sure we're in that 15%? Well, if there's 10 for sale that are identical to yours, are you in the top 1.5? Right? That's how you have to look at this. And they're not great conversations these days. It's much better when I can just bring people 10 offers, but it's not the reality of like where we're at.
I do think though, like, the people you are honest with appreciate it, right? Where I had a conversation the other day with a client, told him a price, and he's like, should I rent it or should I try and sell it? I'm like, I could tell you put a sign on it, but you're going to lose 4 months of rent, probably $15,000. I would just rent it now and wait. Like, if you don't have to sell, and this is part of the conversation on the strategy side, you need to understand what your strategy is. It's not just, hey, I want to sell my property and this is how much I need. When I hear that, when I say I need this out of him, okay, pull on that string. Why do you need that? And what happens if you don't get that? Because you can keep firing agents and hiring different ones, pretending that's the mistake, when in reality, it's price, the condition of the property, or the marketing. There's a great book called Shift by Gary Keller. We read it as a book club, as a team, when the shift happened. And it's got 3 images, and the images in a seller's market is this giant half moon. And it doesn't matter if you're in bad condition or you're overpriced. There's just no properties for sale. You're probably going to get an offer. If you're in a balanced market, it's half. You've got to be in decent condition, price well, and you'll get an offer. The market that we're in now is this. And depending on the asset class where you're selling it, average days on market for something like this is very different than a 2,000 square foot house in Sunningdale in London. All very different asset classes. You got to be in great condition, priced in the range to attract a buyer, which we did 2 weeks ago. We had a great buyer, did a tour of this property, made me a verbal on it. He may be the buyer that we follow back within a month and gets a deal done, but this is a very different asset than a 2,000 square foot house in Sunningdale, where, like he's saying, we'll go back to average days on market, and I know the average days on market in that area is about 38 days. Hasn't sold in 38 days. It's price, condition, and marketing. And if you're not going to renovate the property, we've done the marketing, we've got the exposure, price is your answer. And I think you can earn great relationships by being honest with your clients.
Oh, yeah.
Those end up being the lifelong relationships in this business.
I also really like, for the properties that did sell, what was the list versus sale price ratio? Like,
what is it in Toronto?
Surprisingly enough, downtown Toronto, the condos that are selling are getting 98% of asking.
98.7.
Like, you'd think
London.
There's this much inventory, stuff will be. It's like, no, they're just bang on priced where they need to be. But even knowing that, what does a buyer believe getting a deal on a property means?
Interesting. That's an interesting question.
Money off asking.
Yeah.
Is that true? Not always. Not if it's 500 grand overpriced, right?
Yeah. Very true.
So what we always look at is like, buyers have been told, right or wrong, because micro markets are all different, that we're not in a very good market for the last 24 months. For them to enter and have the confidence and do it, they want to feel like they're winning this negotiation or they're getting a deal. So with our sellers, we're saying, hey, of the 15% that are selling, they're getting 98%. This is what your property is worth. We're going to list it here with this little negotiation room gap. The buyer's going to, you can almost play it out exactly what's going to happen. It happens every single time. Buyer feels like they won. They got 15 grand off asking. We've set it up for that, right? Yeah. So it's just being upfront. And with our sellers too, we're giving them 3 prices. We're saying, this is where I believe your price is today, the day I'm meeting you, because the market changes so rapidly.
Every week.
here's best case scenario. And you'd be surprised, we give them a sell now price, which is, I believe if you list at this price,
Gone.
you will sell in the next 30 days. You'd be surprised how many people choose that price. You think everyone's just best price, highest. People are like, no, I'm done with this. I want to move on with my life. So you give them the options. I'm not the one sitting there saying you have to list your property at this price. Yeah. And the feedback you will get sometimes is like, well, I'm just a little bit nervous if I go at the sell now price and I could have got more. Like, you can't underlist a property. You can undersell a property, but if you underlist it and you get the traction, you're going to get 3 or 4 offers and it's going to sell for what it was worth.
You can if you have a bad agent.
You can undersell a property.
If you have a bad agent.
Yeah. I think you can't underlist it as long as you're good at negotiating.
Yeah, no, that's true. There was actually, I remember in Rosecliff Terrace, years ago, I sold a property. And I actually priced ahead of the market. And I actually knew the agent that I was up against on the other side. She underpriced it. And I knew that real estate's art and math, right? And this is just a strategic thing, is knowing what people say about you and not being afraid to worry about that. And I know that she heavily relies on her list to sale price ratio because she underlists and sells very, very quickly. I went into my listing appointment and I'm like, your list to sale price ratio with me is not going to be great, but we're going to price at 150 grand over where her price is. They're identical houses. Let's watch how it pans out. We ended up making $75,000 more because I built in that strategy to be able to negotiate where the price point was. Rosecliff Terrace is an odd complex, not that many buyers for it. And I looked at the days on market, 64-ish was around the time that I knew it was going to take to sell there. And I think you can modify your strategy depending on the asset. Would that same strategy apply to the house in Sunnydale? Probably not, because of the amount of competition that you're dealing with, right? And I think one reason I wanted to bring Tom here was, in all of your independent businesses, you're probably thinking about your strategy in a very similar way, right? Client acquisition, disposition, what you're doing on a daily basis. I think one of my favorite things about Tom and the podcast that they run is unreal. It's Sundays, right?
Sundays, yep.
And the name of the show?
Tom Storey Show.
There you go. It's not very difficult to find. It is very data-driven, and I often listen to it to just get glimmers of, like, what is he paying attention to that maybe I'm not that great at, right? He's very stats-driven, and he focuses on a couple really big ticket items consistently over time. He's not all of a sudden trying to become a TikTok celebrity or go viral on Instagram by doing property tour video. Like, he's very specific at what he does consistently for long enough that it would be unreasonable that he would not be successful. I think that's also, I'm going to parlay a little bit into your success on YouTube, how you got on TV, how your YouTube channel exploded, is you've really told the internet, this is who I am and this is what I do, and it went out and found the right people for you. So can you explain, actually one quote that you wrote, no matter how good you are at what you do, if people don't know you do it, they won't call you. So how has YouTube changed your life in terms of real estate?
So I was super frustrated. Like, I got my real estate license February 2014. So it'll be 11 years next February.
Sure.
And I felt like I was good at what I was doing. I knew what I was doing. My clients liked me. Like, why am I not doing more business? And it was just like, no one knows who I am. Like, that's it. Like, doesn't matter how good you are at what you do if no one knows you're good. Like, is the best real estate agent in negotiation, are they selling the most amount of properties? Arguably no, for the most part, because maybe they're not great at marketing. They're really good at servicing, but really bad at getting people to know who they are. And at the time, I didn't have money for traditional types of advertisement. So I just started making these monthly videos. December 2015 is the first one I did.
What was the video about?
It was the Toronto monthly stats for December. It was just called the Story Report. I sent it to my database. I uploaded it on YouTube because YouTube was a way for it to get on my website. Like that, there was no like thought. And then I kept doing it. And then I started getting media opportunities where at the time the company that I was working with had a PR department. Sure. They saw that I was doing this. They're like, you can talk to a camera. Would you ever be interested in doing the news? And it all comes down to like opportunities and being prepared. I did lots of like newspaper quotes and whatnot, but January 1st, 2018, New Year's Day, the stress test came in for uninsured mortgages that day. And CP24 needed someone to go in studio, and probably everyone else they called was hungover.
You answered your phone.
I was like doing brunch with my family. I was like, I'm going. This is my moment. Like, I'm not going to screw this up. So I went in studio, had a conversation. It went great. And then once you do it once for them, and they can trust that you're not going to show up and, you know,
be a donkey.
Yeah, basically. They'll keep calling you back. Like all the news wants is certainty. When they bring somebody back, they want to make sure you can show up. And they won't tell you what they're going to ask you, and that's kind of the nerve-wracking part. I know the general theme. So this is how it tracks back to clients is I'll tell them, like, your competitive advantage working with me is that I'm never going to give you an answer based on a gut feeling. Everything's going to go back to here's what the market is doing, here's what I'm seeing. It's like I'm over-prepared to those news interviews. So that's how that started. And then when the pandemic hit, the YouTube channel really took off. Really took off. And, you know, the views and metrics are one thing. Like, that's kind of nice. I'm a business owner, though. Everyone here is a business owner. I make YouTube videos as a tool to let more people know who I am. And if they like my vibe and if they think I'm good at what they do, they'll reach out. So like this year already, we've done 27 firm sales just from our YouTube channel.
Doesn't surprise me because I think it also repels the wrong people that if they did call you, by the time you go through the whole qualification and everything, you realize you're not going to work with them anyways.
And
right?
if you think of it like an online lead, like if you pay for leads with these sites, you know, 1% to 4% is like you're a rock star at converting, right? Like we're converting like 30-35% with the YouTube leads, which I didn't pay for because they've been watching for 4, 5, 6 months.
Yep. 16 hours was the stat I heard by the time they actually pick up the phone and call you as an agent, whether it's Instagram or YouTube. It's like they know you. Like how many people in this room maybe watch Tom's content or my content and kind of feel like you know me because you see my life behind the scenes. And I think that's a big part of what he's talking about that makes it real and authentic, which is also a buzzword too many people use, that they're real and authentic, and then you meet them behind closed doors and there's somebody completely different. He's the same guy on Sundays on his show with Steve as he is talking to you, grabbing a sandwich here. And I think that's a big, big key, right?
I'd say for anyone, though, that's looking at how can you grow your business with social, I do think, and I have no issue with TikTok, I just don't do it because I haven't yet had every pillar of business for us. We try to say, could we get 20 transactions a year out of it? I still haven't to this point had an agent come up to me and prove to me that they've done 20 sales a year from TikTok. Like maybe it's happened, but no one's been able to show me the receipts. Like they say it, but I've never seen it.
I've seen a lot of good recruiting and coaching from TikTok, not as much real estate transaction wise.
So when we're growing,
actually, Glenda Baker. Sorry,
she's probably
very unique.
The outlier. That's probably fair. But when we're growing the channel, I really only post 4 types of videos. There's market updates, which is easy once a month. There's list videos, which people love, best of, worst of. In fact, kind of funny, I did a 10 best condo video in Toronto and it did really well. So the next one I did, I called it the 3 worst condos. And it did 25,000 views in a week and I got 2 legal letters. But what it proved is like somebody somewhere went, this is a negative thing, but that guy is going to bring down the value. Like I was making videos in my basement that no one used to watch. And now someone thinks I'm impacting the value. Like just to show you how many people are actually there, right? So you get the list videos, then the ones that are the best for channel growth, but aren't going to get you appointments, but you kind of need people to show up first, is the news headline breakdown videos. Everything that they put is clickbait in some way. They've already written a headline professionally. That's the title of my video, and then I break it down. But the ones that are the best for converting people, we have these super long, boring, like Masterclass, that thing that you signed up for and never used?
I watched
Me
2.
at least. Yeah.
I paid for it for like a year probably, but.
We think of it like that. So like we have a 45-minute video that goes step by step through absolutely everything you'd ever need to know to buy a condo. I guarantee you we've sold 30 properties from that one video. We just put out one that's a 32-minute video that's step-by-step guide to buy your first property in Canada. Everything from the saving accounts you need to how to save for a down payment to the process to the offers. And then halfway through that video, I just say like, if you want to do this, just book a call with me right now. And we just actually had one where someone emailed me on my website and said, I watched your video, but I don't live in Toronto. I live in this area. Can you connect me with an agent there?
Because you want to buy in Brucefield?
It was Ottawa, actually. But I sent it to an Ottawa agent. 2 days later, they bought. And they sent me. So like I got a 25-point referral for making a video that lives always on the internet. They probably watched when I was taking a nap or something. Like it's just so wild to see what you can do with it. And it's not just real estate. It's anything. If you go on there and you show you know what you're talking about, you have a bit, like, and my personality is not super, like I'm pretty tame, but it works. You find the people that like your content. And
he's got a good sense of humor. Watch the show on Sundays. He's being hard on himself, but you're absolutely true. It doesn't matter. There's Roger Wakefield. He's a plumber in Texas. I connected with him through Christina Smallhorn, who's a great real estate YouTuber. And the reason why I connected with him was his story was he was a plumber that was really having a hard time getting business, didn't have a budget to spend $500,000 a year on billboards. Figured out YouTube, did it consistently for enough time that YouTube now pays him, and he's the number one guy in Texas. His main competitor does pay for the billboards, and it all comes off of the organic content once it figures out who you are. And what he's saying is so true. I think it's a matter of your pillar, how you approach that pillar, and do you do it consistently enough? A lot of people that are in this room are here because of the fact that you're on the Insider's newsletter, or you follow our content, or maybe you saw me post something on social, not because I'm special. It's because you've put your hand up and signaled that I'm interested in this thing. We've tried to segment our database so we're not just blasting everybody with spam for things that you don't want to see and just giving you opportunities. But he said yes to opportunities, and he showed up. And the referrals and the people that are going to call him aren't going to come from the most viral videos. That's the other thing people think. I need followers and I need views. They compare themselves against somebody that is paying for followers or paying for views as if that's the answer. The videos that sell most of our properties actually have our lowest view count. But the people that bought the properties watched that video 15, 16 times before they went to see the property. It's got maybe 150 or 200 views. I've got videos on our YouTube channel with 36, 40,000, 50,000 views. Great from a high level perspective, but they're not buying a specific property, right? Like, I'd love to hear your take on this later on as well too, because I see you nodding. Like, Chris has a very legit following online, but also understands the science behind it is getting to the human being at the other end, not the vanity metrics, not the subscribers, not the followers, but when you do your videos, it's like you're talking to one person who's buying a condo in Toronto, which is the answer to what we're looking for, right?
Also, 6 months ago, me and my team sat down at a meeting, and we kind of figured out if we just do what we're currently doing, the market will determine what our results are. So we saw 3 opportunities in our market for our business was lots of condos for sale. Great. We should be spending more of our time finding condo buyers. Like, it's just very clear.
If you have the buyers, you'll sell the condos.
Yeah, the houses that are moving quickly are in this price range. Or weirdly enough, really big old condos and old buildings, downsizers are buying them. They don't need mortgages, and they're moving pretty quick.
And they can renovate them too. Like, take that list, 100 condos, get it down to 14, pick the 5 best ones, table it to your buyer, and you'll sell them a condo in a week or 2.
But like, knowing this, I actually tailored the content I was making to the person that I wanted to find that where the opportunity existed. So like, in our world, if we go back to 2021, 125,000 transactions, this year it's going to be 70. That's 60% of what we were doing. And any other business here, I'm sure to now, it's like a totally different thing. If I just relied on my database and my repeat and my referral, I would be tracking with the market. We had to look at things like YouTube, like the podcast, even going back to using direct mail, which is like on the total other end of the spectrum here. All of them worked to get us more opportunity. We had our best year ever last year, in a year that mathematically was the second hardest year, only compared to this year. Like, in the last 15 years, this is the hardest year we've ever had in transactions for real estate agents.
I swear one day Shannon's going to show up to one of these things. I know she's the Wizard of Oz. She's like the heartbeat and the brains of Prime. She has no social media accounts, hence why I'm the face. She tracks our numbers, and she told us the same thing. So last year, she got very intentional on where are we spending our time, money, and resources, what's working, what's not, and just slashing things that weren't working. Laying the groundwork for the vision of what do we need to improve on from a team perspective, operationally, administratively, marketing. And we just did that in the fall, and we're about to lay the roadmap with our team for 2025. She, in June, was like, hey, we passed our numbers last year. And I was like, everybody's down 30%. What are you talking about? I'm like, that can't be right. And then we started looking at, well, how did we pass those numbers? It was adjusting in terms of looking for where the market activity is going, the Wayne Gretzky effect, like where is the puck going, thinking a few steps ahead, which is why your clients hire you in whatever business you're in, right? Is, do you know what you're talking about from a market perspective, and do you have connections that are giving you insights into what's coming down the pipeline? So when CP24 calls you, you're educated. Are you studying your actual craft? Like, he actually enjoys this stuff, guys, like reading the stats. You can tell he gets a kick out of it, and he understands what he finds joy in, and he makes that a part of his business, and then identifies the clients, and then looks at the infrastructure behind it. Like the podcast we're doing here today, I coupled one of my favorite clients with one of my favorite properties with people from my database from all walks of life, shooting 2 podcasts that are going to live on my YouTube channel, which will be cut into reels that you'll see on Instagram. I know it seems like I'm doing a lot, but I think if you're intentional with stacking what you're doing intentionally towards a target, I don't need to sell any of you anything. That's why it's not a pitch fest. The value is in doing the action, not in the sale. And I think, anyways, just to give you kind of your flowers on this, the person that finds joy in doing the actions will find the business they're looking for. The person that thinks that they're going to find joy in finding the business will never be satiated because they want the view without the climb, if that makes sense, right?
Earlier this week, we were in Collingwood. We met up with another team and did business planning, and that's like my favorite day of the year.
Yeah.
And I actually do think that, this is just my opinion, sales volume next year will be up 15 to 20%.
Sounds about right.
So if your business goes up 15 to 20%, you didn't do anything. Like you tracked with the market, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So just being aware of that and then realizing that like most people go about their day not tracking things in our businesses like we track them.
What do you track?
Well, I'll give you an example. One of my best friends who I actually owned a property with wants to buy a house next year, and he was texting me. He's like, I don't think the numbers work. I can't qualify. I'm like, have you tried with the new mortgage rules that are coming in? He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you're like, if you don't know, like and even another one, if you want to use it as a talking point, one of the new mortgage rules is a 30-year AM for first-time home buyers, right? If they're getting insured. If you change that from 25 to 30, of course the monthly payment is lower, but it's also going to qualify them for probably almost 9 to 10% more purchasing power. Yep. So the way that you can break this down and explain is the 30-year AM for first-time home buyers not putting down 20% is almost like taking 1 point away from the stress test, because that's how much more you're qualifying for. So it's just like taking the information which everybody has access to and then simplifying it seems to be what's worked well for us. Is like make it digestible so that the average Canadian that's not tracking it like us can go, oh, okay, like that makes sense.
Lynette is here somewhere. Or maybe she went down, sit somewhere. We were talking yesterday about taking investors out, and I'm like, why do they pay you? Right? They don't pay you to open a door and walk them through a property and like figure it out on their own. Although 90% of our industry, that's what they do. The agents plug them into a portal, they find their own property, they open the door. Do you like it? And then do you want to pay for an offer? Great. Like, they pay you to interpret the data. Because I think for years and years and years, agents' value was telling you what your neighbor's house sold for. Well, that's public now. Anybody can find that anywhere they want. It's being able to interpret the opportunity today, potentially where the market is going, with a caveat that I can't promise you anything because I don't know where the market's going to go. Real estate's a risky business. If you don't want to take any risk, don't be a real estate investor and don't buy real estate, rent for the rest of your life. Go for it. But I also think that there is a leveraged return that you can find in real estate that you cannot find anywhere else. And I think that's why it's a fun business. Is there's, in my opinion, never been more opportunity in the marketplace than there is today. Never. Even though you're going to have to be working for tomorrow's dollars today, the amount of willingness for people to actually work hard and dig up the data, it's shockingly easy to stand out. Communicate with your clients on a frequent basis. Study the data. Like, it just takes a little bit of effort to do that extra 20% and stand out from the crowd, right?
And just being upfront with people. Like my favorite line these days with sellers is, people used to hire me because I could sell their property for more money. Now they're hiring me because I can sell it. It sounds kind of sad when you say it out loud, but it's like so few percentage of these condos are moving. Mine are moving. Yeah. It's mostly just because I understand the data and can share, here's what you need to do to actually sell. And previously it was like, the pitch was hire us because I can get you 5% more than the average realtor because I have the data to back it up. Yeah. Now the market's in a different place. It's just being upfront with people. And, the last probably 60 days, I've had so many buyers come to me, and I'm not grabbing them and shaking them being like, it's time to get into the market. They're coming to me. They're like, we've been watching.
Yeah.
We noticed, we think, not that necessarily it's bottomed out, but we've noticed what's happening here. Like, this feels like a good opportunity. I even had someone that his daughter was going to George Brown. He's like, she's going to rent for another 3 years. I've been watching the market. Even if she's only going to own it for 3 years, I still think it's better for me to just buy one for her, let her live there, than continue renting. So we ran all the numbers and everything, and we're actively showing them properties now. So like consumers are coming to their own conclusions because they are tracking it, but there's still lots that really, if you can just simplify the information, go, here's what you need to know, maybe it makes sense for you, maybe it doesn't.
Yeah, I think that's key. I've talked to an investor on the weekend, exact same setup. I met him through Scott at the event that he did at Scotia. And they own a couple properties. They were invested in 2 of his funds, and then their kid was going to Western, and they sent us a property. This is what they're looking at. I'm like, that's a terrible location. Like, kid's going to Ivy. You don't want him near the party streets. Like, you want him close enough that he can go there if he wants to, but far enough away that he can live in a good neighborhood and resale value. We're going to put him in an area where 2 great schools. I'm talking to investors. I'm talking to homeowners and so on and so forth. I think that comes from understanding that what got you here won't get you there in all of your businesses, right? You could have fallen out of a tree and felt like you were a successful business person from 2020 to 2022. If you're a contractor, if you're in real estate, it doesn't matter. Like, literally walk out your door and you'd just be getting hit with deals because the market was so frothy. People were just running forward. The people that I respect the most every year will take a real look at themselves and see what areas they want to improve on from a personal perspective, a professional perspective, and set some intentionality that you may not be that person in 6 months or 8 months, but you can damn sure try and make adjustments along the way. And I was talking to some entrepreneurs this morning. We were making a comparison with a samurai sword, where that samurai sword gets folded over months and then heated over months and years. And each sword will be so unique in the way that it's formed to its individual metals. But the forming process is what creates the sword, right? Like, going through really tough times is how you figure out who you are, right? And I love, like, there's this optimistic vibe that you have in terms of where things are going, because I think you've made changes in your business. That said, how has failure shaped your life and business to kind of where you're at today?
Well, 6 months into selling real estate, I had made $10,000 on leases, and I was about to quit.
Yeah.
Like, many times. So I'd say that, and then going from just like starting this to sell things to now, like, I haven't even shown a property in 5 years, right? Like, I do all the listings and my team does the buyers. So it's just managing people has taught me a lot of lessons, and I failed a lot along the way there because I was really good at creating opportunity and selling. Then as you kind of move over into this role, and now I've got someone to do that role for me. So I've learned probably most from that. And it's so lucky, like, whatever industry you're in, the coaching and training, especially the coaching, I've been with the same coach for 8.5 years. We talk every other Tuesday for half an hour. That's valuable, but the network in which I'm in for my industry has saved me 10 years of trial and error.
Yeah.
Even though my listing presentation now has been crafted by me to exactly where I want it, most of it I took from other people and put it into my own. Our buyer presentation, how we run our systems, everything has gone from, like, I could just easily fail on my own to try to do this a new way, or I could ask the guy over there that's been doing it 35 years and they'll tell me. Yeah. And it's interesting, like, you realize from things like this, and my brokerage in Toronto, I'm guessing, is very similar to yours. Like, we all literally, we sent out a postcard not too long ago that was an idea from Jimmy Mackin, which is Tom Ferry's guy, and it was a direct mailer, and it just said, name your price with a QR code. We sent this to 10,000 condos. Only 5 people filled it out.
Interesting.
We got 2 listings from it.
There you go.
So I was, like, running around the office being like, it worked. But, like, not all environments are like that. So it's making sure if you're in an environment where people are, like, closed off, like, it's probably time to get out of it.
Yeah, Andrew Fogliato, Just Sell Homes, really, really nice guy. He owns REM now, right?
Yep, he does. I
write for them, so I should probably know that. He told me on Clubhouse, which everybody laughed about Clubhouse back in the day. We spent a lot of time on Clubhouse. 9-word email. We were sitting in a Clubhouse one day. I was working out in my basement. He's like, send this to your database, subject line, whatever they inquired on, London, Ontario. Are you still looking for a home in London, Ontario? 9 words. That's it. Send that to leads that are like 6 years old that haven't responded to anything. I did it as I was working out. My day was scrapped. I got like a 65% response rate from people. Just called the team, like, everybody get in the office. We got to figure this out, because everybody was responding. I think it's also getting out of your comfort zone and getting around other people and trying things and getting messy and getting into it, right? And I think the ecosystems that, you know, I've met you through and other people, our Prime Planner document came from some of those ecosystems where we took the best of it into industry, out of different industries, and we try and modify it every year and improve it. And I think, you know, your struggle maybe through the learning how to manage people and growing from it's just you selling to now you're selling with people to where you're at today. That's business.
Can I just add to the 9-word email? Because that's a Dean Jackson originating idea that Andrew gave.
Yeah.
That email has made me hundreds of thousands of dollars.
100%.
instead of responding to someone that's gone cold and saying, hey, Justin, I hope you're doing well. How's the family? It's like, no. Are you still looking to do this thing? Yeah. You will get responses. And in our business, going into every single year, we send out an email with 4 questions to our entire database. So whatever you sell, it doesn't matter. And we say, hey, I'm just curious, moving into 2025, I want to know where you stand on your real estate plans. Which answer best describes your situation? Number 1, not looking to move this year. Number 2, would sell for the right price. Number 3, I think it's something to do with buying an investment property.
Sure.
Or looking to buy and sell.
Yeah.
4 questions. They can answer all of them if they want. We send that out to our entire database, and now we make it a bit of a contest. Like, if you fill this out, we'll pull a $500 Amazon gift card or something. So every year we start with like 70 people that have told us exactly what they're going to do.
Interesting.
And even if they say no, it's good to know.
Hey, if you're a client, you're going to get an email from me later on today with 4 questions.
But like it doesn't matter what you're selling.
Yeah, it's true.
Which best describes your, like if my car guy had said that to me, I'd be like, oh, my lease is coming up. Like, look, can we talk about this? I wasn't even thinking about that.
Isn't that a funny dynamic though? Because in my head initially, I'm like, you always think as an agent, you're like, I don't want to bother people. They don't want to be sold. You like shopping with friends, don't turn into a salesperson. But if my car guy sent that to me, I'm actually in that place now where I need to select a vehicle, swap out of it. Like he's doing me a favor, reminding me of, I got to make time for this. And I got to give him the roadmap of like, bro, I have to get something done. I want to be out of my vehicle by January, February, figure out what the best options for me and just email me. That's what I actually want from my car guy. That's what people want from their real estate agents or the people that are working for them. They just want somebody that they trust so that just like the news people, now you're their guy. Like just, this is what I need to accomplish. Can I go live my life with my family, table my options, and then we'll go do business together. Great. And then like that sprint that you get with the client when they are doing something is my favorite thing. Cause I'm like, I see my best friends for months at a time, and then they'll disappear for like 2 years because that's life, right? It's a fun business to be in because when you reignite those relationships, then you get to serve them at a high level. You get to reacquaint yourself with them. And I mean, it takes down that wall of being scared to reach out to them if you're doing it strategically.
And even if the answer is no, which will be more than half of the answers, by the way, it's interesting to see that email thread so many times over the years. They reach out again 4 months later saying, actually, now we're thinking about it. Can we set up a call?
Yeah.
So it's like that initial reach out where for all of what we do, just that small portion of time that they might need you, are they going to think of you? And if they don't, they're going to reach out to somebody else. And if you believe you are really good at what you do, you are doing your clients a disservice by not being good at following up and being good at marketing, because it's allowing them to potentially go have a 3-star experience somewhere else. Right? Like,
I love that.
You should ask for referrals because you're going to take care of them, where that person could end up with someone that's just trying to get a deal done and move on with their life, where it's not going to be a good experience. So like you got to believe in yourself before you can start doing that.
And you actually have to want to deliver. It's easy to say something. That quote from Taylor Hack was one of my favorites, where he literally says to people, he's built his business to save consumers from 3-star experiences. And everything he does is based around that. Is it perfect? No. Will people make mistakes? Yes. But the intention's there, and you can see it in the work that he does. A couple rapid fire questions. Do you have any favorite podcasts or books you're reading right now besides your own?
For podcasts, normally I'm completely outside of real estate.
Okay.
Like I'll listen to like Smart List or something and just hear people goof around for an hour.
I like that. Sometimes you got to get out and you'll get inspiration from other industries. Your morning routine in 30 seconds or less.
I have no choice because I have 2 kids. So I wake up at 6 and then we scramble to get them to daycare.
For now.
Yeah.
Nico or RR, remind me to send him the Miracle Morning for Real Estate Agents.
It's funny. I had that book a long time ago before I had kids and was okay about it. I do every night before bed, and when I wake up, I have the journal.
Amazing.
And I do that every single night and every single morning.
That matters so much. Sets you up for success. I mean, I think there's seasons of life, right? Like if you're a brand new kid and you're up all night screaming and crying, enjoy it. 18 summers down the road, they're going to be gone, and you're going to be in a quiet house. And you're going to be like, man, I wish I was there in the trenches, not complaining about not getting sleep. Last question. One thing you wish every client knew before working with a real estate agent.
Any real estate agent?
Any real estate agent.
Every property in every market sells for the right price.